Hello and welcome to another Sega Nerds interview. I'm Chris, the editor of Sega Nerds, and with me today is Daniel Ibbertson from Slopes Game Room. Ibbertson is take me a little bit, but welcome to the show today, Dan. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
We've been talking about doing this for a while, and I'm glad we're finally able to get it going. Can you just quickly introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners out there?
Okay. Yes. So I am Daniel Ibbertson, aka DJ Slope, aka whatever you want to call me. But I run a website or a YouTube channel called Slopes Game Room. On that, I do YouTube sort of documentary historic videos. My most popular one is Streets of Rage, which is how we got to know each other, where I cover everything to do with that series. But then I also do not just Sega, but primarily my focus is Sega. So hence why I'm on the Sega Nerds podcast, I suppose.
That's right. Yeah. That Streets of Rage retrospective was the first one I saw of yours.
Cool.
And I fell in love with it. I was like, man, I don't think there's been a retrospective video that really went that deep into the Streets of Rage series you did with that. And I was like, man, this is really good. And then I saw some of your other work. I've been following you ever since. I think you do a great job with that.
Cheers,
but yeah, man, that Streets of Rage one was really good. How long did it take you to actually do all the research and everything that went into making that video? Because I imagine it was quite a long time.
That particular one, I mean, obviously I was early days, and that was my I think that was my fourth ever video I ever did. And other than my first one, which I just kept redoing and redoing and redoing because I kept looking at other YouTubers that I wanted to be like. That particular Streets of Rage one, I want to say 2 months from beginning to end, roughly. Maybe it was. I normally work. I mean, if you look on my Google Drive, you'll see I've got about 10 completed scripts. I've always got loads working. I'm always working on, and several more that are half completed. And even back then, I sort of did the same thing. But there was editing, which took me a really long time to suss out different ways. There's a part right at the beginning, if you watch it, you'll know, where you've got loads of game covers shooting up the screen.
Yeah,
that took me one entire night, and that is a 5-second bit of the video. And then when I got to the end, I realized, I should have just had it as one long picture that I just moved up the page, rather than having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds I had to animate individually. You know, you just learn as you go along. But yeah, that Streets of Rage video took me the longest. And if you notice, it's probably the only video I've done where at the end there's no "thank you for listening" where I actually say it. It's just typed out quickly to get it done, because I've worked so long on it. I was like, right, I'm done. I've got to get it out. I'm so excited. Yeah, and it's my most popular video by probably quite a stretch, probably maybe double to any other video. So.
Oh wow! Yeah. What's your background? Did you have a background in like video editing? I know you. Can you kind of talk about that? Yeah, I know you call yourself DJ Slope, or were you a DJ at some point too?
No, I still am. But not as much now. I've got a little boy now, so the DJ sort of knocked on the head somewhat.
Kids have a tendency to take the things that you love most in life and throw it out the door.
Well, I got to a point where I was doing 5 or 6 nights a week where I'd leave here at 7 p.m, get home at 3 a.m, and I just never really saw my wife most days of the week. And obviously you can't do that when you've got a kid.
Right.
So. But that was like club DJ, and I still do a bit of mobile-esque DJing, I suppose. But no, with the video stuff. So I got really into wow, how far back should we go? Okay, so I used to have a TV show, sort of. I say I did. Me and several friends had a TV show. We got that by editing our own silly little Jackass type stunts before Jackass got big. We put it online and I dialed up computers before YouTube, and we'd get, I think it was under 100 people a week look at our website. We thought we were at the bottom. We really did. And then Jackass came out, and we needed to up our game, and we started giving out promo CDs, and I got really into the editing there. But it was primarily for another friend of mine called Tom. It went on, and I got really into that. So when I started doing my remixes, I used similar sort of software, which was Acid Pro, Sony Acid Pro. And when you learn how to edit with that, audio with that, it's not that hard to transition from that to Sony Vegas, which is what I use to edit my videos. And basically, the TV show came and went. I started just moving around. I started doing video DJing. So when I actually did real DJing, I would have videos playing at the same time. So I got really into, for about 2 years, constantly editing videos. Unfortunately, I can't put those up because of all copyrighted music, you know.
Yeah, YouTube kind of frowns down upon that these days.
Yeah, and I'd always sneak in some classic gaming stuff in there to get the crowd going, oh wow, look at this, look, you know, so I'd be playing some old nostalgic tune and that would come up, you know. It gave me a good edge over other DJs, I suppose. But yeah, then obviously the DJing got knocked on the head and I just started pushing on this YouTubing thing, which I wanted to do for probably 5-6 years before I eventually got off my arse and done it. And here we are.
It's one of those things I've always wanted to do to really get into making YouTube videos, especially on gaming. It's something that I've always loved. I watched people from the very early days. I mean, the Happy Console Gamer was probably aside from the Angry Video Game Nerd. I mean, everyone watched him from the early days. I mean, I was watching when he was still the Angry Nintendo Nerd. But there, I mean, it's crazy to kind of see the evolution of all these different channels, and now like everyone's doing it. But when you first, you know, started seeing some of these guys, like who were some of your main kind of influences and inspirations as you started getting serious to doing your own?
Yeah, I mean, so and that first video I did, which was actually the story of Roland, I always knew there was a story there that no one had ever done. If you haven't seen it, Alan Sugar, who's the UK's apprentice, he basically created. He basically asked someone to make him a mascot, gave them a name, but went to so many different places that when they came back, they all had the name Roland, but they were all completely different. And I thought that would be a really cool video to make, go into the history of that. But because no one had ever done it, not that I had ever seen. But when I was looking at inspiration, I kept changing the way I done it. I tried to put on a cool, squeaky voice. I had things slapped over the screen. You know, maybe I was going to go down a JonTron route, you know, all that. But I eventually found my niche, I suppose. But the way it started, I remember watching Angry Video Game Nerd, and probably Larry Bundy Jr. I think was the first ever, and I got really into Ashin's sort of reviews as well on video games. And but I remember, I really like this Angry Video Game Nerd. Maybe I'll do something like this. But then he did one episode, which was Adventure, where he talked about you could win the chalice and you could win the sword.
I love that video. I think it was like a 2 or 3 part video, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I remember watching that and I'm like, that was cool. I had no interest. I've got no interest in a game like that, but I was just so interested with the history. And I was like, that's the sort of video I want to make. And then I started getting into lazy game reviews. Like I say, I always watch Larry and Ashin stuff, but Ashin's was a bit few and far between because he did other stuff in between then. Yeah, that was the real main inspiration. Those 3. Angry Video Game Nerd's a hard one to say inspired me, because it's really those particular videos that really got me going, rather than the screaming at the camera, you know, swearing. He's still good at what he does. He's the first, really, wasn't he? That hit it big doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's weird because, you know, every once in a while he will go and do a video like that where he kind of delves into the history of something, and that adventure one was actually like really amazing. I remember that, and I was just completely kind of captured by the story behind it, and it must have been amazing to have lived through that and been some of those people that were actually going out and trying to, you know, get all the clues in the game and getting all these prizes. I mean, that is like one of those amazing moments in video game history that you just will never see again. You know, you'll never see a company do something like that, and it's really amazing.
And then when he drops at the fact that some of these have never been found, you know, it's reported that it's still on the I think it's like the lead guy's like a wall in his living room or something, and it's just like, wow, that stuff's out there. That's cool. And I got really excited about that sort of stuff, and that's the sort of stuff I wanted to try and find. I mean, I knew a few stories that people didn't really know much about, like Roland and whatever else, and I've still got a couple from the very beginning that I still have not done. I love those really cool stories. The next video I'm doing actually is on a story that practically no one knows. And it's
really?
A mascot for a console. I don't want to say because people won't find it. It's going to be so good. So that's another exciting one. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm really interested personally in learning more about the history of video game systems in certain territories. Like in the UK, you guys had different systems that never made it over here, especially like in the late 80s, early 90s time frame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you guys had your stuff is like the was I guess the Spectrum was something we never got over here, which was really popular for you guys there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had my first computer, which came, I think, like a few weeks after I was born, and then eventually gave to me when I was old enough to play on it. Was the Amstrad CPC 464, which had those Roland games, and there's a good cult following of that sort of stuff. It's cool. It's got, because that's the thing when you watch what seems to happen in the UK is everyone watches all these YouTubers, and you got your classics like your angry video game nerds and your happy console gamer and all of these other people, and they seem to think that everything they're watching happened in the UK, but in actual fact, it was a very different story. There was no computer game crash in the UK per se. We was booming with all these home computers. So it's quite something, and I think it's good to try and document a bit of both, you know.
Absolutely. So let's go back, like when you were a kid and stuff. You kind of touched on getting that computer. What was some of your early like first memories of getting into gaming, and how did that kind of come about?
Sure. Okay. So this is quite hard. So you got to imagine you got your screen right in front of you. My first game I ever played was a game called Bridget. I think it probably wasn't, but from my memory, it was Bridget. So all Bridget was, you got little lemming people that just run across out of a little hut at the top, and they just go run down this little area and then get to the end. But basically, there's these bridges that open and shut all the way through. So you've got to push the right button to shut them as they run across.
Oh, right.
That was one of my first gaming memories, and that was on the Amstrad. I had another game called what other big ones were there? Roland in the Caves, which again we're talking about that Roland game, and that's actually, see, that's cool. That's the cool thing when you start looking into the history of these sort of games. You realize, oh my god, it's a complete rip-off of another game, and you find out that there's a massive history like that. It was actually the first ever Spanish video game, and it's got a huge cult following in Spain. So then you really get into that. You know, this is really exciting stuff, and you want to document it. You want to tell the world. So you got that. When I started moving towards Sega, as such, was I was into this Amstrad, and I thought I had like this incredible computer, and a friend of mine had a NES. And I remember going over there and seeing the Mario game and thinking, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. But then I had someone else that had a Mega Drive, not a Mega Drive, a Master System. Right. And I was like, whoa, this is incredible. When I jumping from what I saw Mario, just this like little run along person, and in my mind, that was exactly the same as the crap that I was playing. Obviously, it wasn't. But then when I saw, what games were there? Choplifter got me really excited.
Yeah, Choplifter.
Great baseball. That's the best version of the game, in my opinion, on the Master System. It wasn't. I remember hearing about Sonic, but I never played Sonic. And then that year, I got my Mega Drive in '91, I believe it was, with Fantasia, Streets of Rage, Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and it is the best Christmas present I ever got. Changed my life. That was
that's a good group of games to get. Like, you know, right then. That's pretty awesome.
I remember actually as a kid thinking, I was like, get off! I don't want to play crappy Streets of Rage. I want to play Fantasia.
Oh, no. That's hilarious. So the Master System was quite a bit more popular in the UK than it was in the US.
Yeah.
What I've heard, right?
Yeah, my cousin had one. I didn't get to play on it that much, but yeah, my cousin had one. An endless amount of games. But all I remember really back then of it was there were just rubbish ports in the games I was having on the Mega Drive. You know? Right. Like, oh, they got Lion King, but check out the Lion King I've got, you know, and stuff like that. But yeah, when all these people moved on to whatever they moved on, I just got given all of these Master System games. So I grew a massive love for Master System after it was popular.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, because here in the States, I none of my friends had a Master System. My cousin ended up getting one, and I saw Altered Beast on it like for the first time. And I fell in love with it then, but I just didn't know anything about it. I didn't see it in stores or anything, and everything was about the NES over here until the Genesis was released, and then everyone was talking about Sonic, and that's when the Genesis craze like really hit, and that's when it was all Sega versus Nintendo and everything, and that was just an amazing time. So everyone talks about the whole Sega versus Nintendo back here in the States, but did you guys experience that same kind of thing growing up between your friends?
It's quite weird because when I all my secondary school friends, so that's ages 11 up, I suppose, they all seem to have Nintendos, But when I was at primary school, I went to a school with 70 odd children. That was the entire school. And in fact, the year above me only had 2 kids in it the whole year. I remember not knowing one person that had a Nintendo system at all. There was one kid that had a Game Boy. Everyone else had Mega Drives, and a lot of people had PCs. So there was literally, other than the fact that a guy over the road had a NES, and he instantly moved that over when he got his Mega Drive. There was absolutely no. I was not injected with Nintendo in the slightest, except for seeing the odd Game Boy in the wild. There was nothing. But then, like I say, all my friends in secondary school, all they talked about was their classic Star Fox games and their Super Mario Worlds and stuff like that. And I'm like, why would you play that when you could play this, like Sonic the Hedgehog? Like, even back then, I was like, in my opinion, the Mega Drive absolutely trumps the SNES, but that's obviously nostalgia playing its card there, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I completely agree. For whatever it is, like I even till today, up until today, I mean, I still try to get into a certain Nintendo game that comes out, like a new Zelda will come out. I'll try to give it a chance, and I really will legitimately try to play it. But for whatever reason, just Nintendo games just don't really capture my attention and don't really resonate with me the way that the classic Sega games do, whether it's like this like really amazing aggressive soundtrack that Yuzo Koshiro put together, or just this great gameplay, arcade style gameplay. So many classic Sega games just completely just captured my imagination. Streets of Rage was one of them growing up. I mean, I remember playing that game so much with my cousins. We would just sit there all day long and just play 2-player, and we'd one of us would die, we'd lose and continue, then another one would come in, and we just sit there over and over again. So,
absolutely. I remember once when I was with one of my cousins, and we worked out that there was a second ending. I remember that big argument. Like, no, don't push that, don't choose that, don't choose that. And then when he did, we were fighting each other. And I was like, no, we don't fight each other. And he actually started like, okay, we did it. It was like on an edge of your seat moment. And then when we realized that there was another ending, we played through that game so many times that weekend to see both endings of every character in one weekend.
Oh, that's amazing. That is awesome. So how much, or I guess when you pick a game now that like Streets of Rage that you want to kind of talk about, how often is it just a game that you look at and you're like, hey, not a lot of people have done a retrospective on this, or is it more, I really love this series?
Not necessarily. I mean, like for instance, I've just done one on Ghouls and Ghosts, which obviously, again, it's not Sega, but there's so many people out there that have done Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts, but when I try and do one of these, the complete history videos, without trying to sound too big-headed, I try and make the ultimate video, like the one that if I was ever going to go off and look for something about Ghouls and Ghosts, it would be the only video I'd ever need to see regarding it, and that's what I try and make. And I know that sounds probably a bit crazy, thinking that I'm the only one, the only video you need to see, but I try and make it like, after you've seen this one, you're not going to really care about ones that are, I mean, and that's what I try and do. So. Sometimes it completely blows me out of the water though, because I don't realize what I've just set myself in for. So this has got quite a cool, interesting story with Super Monkey Ball. Or maybe I can talk about the fact that you tilt the world rather than the person, and who was the guy that created it. And he said that he wanted to make a less realistic game, but he just come off Daytona, which wasn't a realistic racing game, really. I thought this would all be quite interesting for a story. But then when you put that complete history on, you've got to talk about every single Monkey Ball game. And there are so many. And that's when it starts getting out of control, these videos. And when I've got a deadline and I'm like, right, I need to get it out by this weekend. And I'm like, damn it, there's actually another 9 games I've got to talk about here.
Oh my God. So I got a couple ideas that I think might be interesting to you, because I've not seen anyone do it in video form yet. So, and they're both Sega stuff. So
I like Sega.
When Sega was running up to the release of, I think it was NFL 2K5, that was the one where they had a first-person video mode in it. It was like the first time like any football game has had first-person view in the video or in the game. So they created this website called, I want to say it was called Beta 5, and I actually did an article on it on Sega Nerds a long time ago. And so it was this kind of viral marketing campaign that they did before viral marketing was really a big thing. And so they had this guy that was acting like he was a beta tester on NFL 2K5, but he would write like a daily update. And I remember reading this as it was happening, like this was back in like 2004.
Right.
And he would just update his website every day, and then he would post video clips, and he would start saying he would go in and play the game, and he'd talk a little bit about the game, but then he would say that he was starting to experience like headaches. He would start passing out, and then he would like wake up and find that his house was like trashed, and so he decided that he was going to set up some cameras, and so he would just be sitting there, and then all of a sudden he would snap, and then he would start like doing all these like weird like football type of moves, like he was a linebacker, and then he'd pass out, and then wake up and just trash the house.
Thing, wasn't it? I take
What's that?
It was all a big marketing thing. I take it.
It was all a big marketing thing, but it was well done that then it came about that he wanted to take down like visual concepts because they were creating this game that was going to kill people, and like it was just this wacky thing. And not a lot of people talk about it.
I didn't know nothing about it. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. And I'll send you the link after we're done. And maybe you can do some research into it. It might be something that you might be interested in. But I thought it was just a really fascinating story that not a lot of people talk about. And I remember living it, like as it was going on. I would talk about it on the official SEGA forums, because that was where I'd go all the time, and we just every new update that would happen, we talk about it. But like, is this, because we didn't know, like there wasn't viral marketing back then, like it wasn't really a thing yet that become commonplace. So some people were like, oh, it's fake, and other people were like, I don't know, man, this guy. And so you could email him and he'd respond back. So there were real people behind it. It was just really well done. It was really cool.
Oh, wow. I'm well up for checking that out. Definitely. Yeah, send me a link over on that. In fact, actually, one of my latest things I'm looking up about... Okay, I'll say it's the history of Echo the Dolphin. I actually come across your site that was talking about it as well. So there's a messed up history, if you know what I mean. Uh-huh. Do you know what I'm on about?
Okay, I'm sorry. You broke up for a second. What was that?
One of the other things I'm looking into, like a cool, interesting story, is the messed up history of Echo the Dolphin.
No, I don't know that. What?
It was on your site as well. I found that you posted about it as well. So maybe not you personally, but on SEGA Nerd.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'll talk to you about that afterwards. I didn't know if you knew about that at all. But
oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, because I've been trying to get Ed Annunziata on our podcast for so long, and it's one of those things like we keep trying, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then something happens, and then we get to the day, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it. And so I want to get him on because he seems like such a interesting person, like he's just this like I don't know. It's just I would love to talk to him about like his career in video games and what he's doing now and some of his philosophies. And because the thing is about an Ed Annunziata game is like when you start playing it, you can tell it's an Ed Annunziata game from the way it looks, from the way it plays, from the soundtrack. Everything about it is an Ed Annunziata game. I love the way he drops you into a world with very little instructions, and he wants you to explore it and learn the game mechanics as you go along and learn the rules of this world.
Absolutely.
And I love that. And I mean, I remember, man, Echo the Dolphin was one of those amazing games. I remember just sitting there playing the game, and I would just jump out of water for hours. I would just jump, do flips, and just play around in the world. I loved it. And there was no other game that you could do anything like that on. And that was just a very magical game.
Probably the game that scared me the most originally as well. That when you're going through those really tight little caverns, and then there's a big octopus, and its hand comes towards you, like, do I go further? Do I? And like, you hear that scream of the dolphin. You're like, Jesus, this is whoa. But I've actually got an interview lined up. We're just confirming a date with Stephen Arpour, the guy who made Bug, which is going to be an upcoming complete history video. Eventually.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
But I need to find out more about that game because I can't find anything interesting about it other than the fact that I think the character is interesting. The fact that the two games and nothing else. I'm going to ask him a lot of questions. Why was there no more? Where was the inspiration? All that sort of stuff. But I don't know anything else cool about Bug. So if anyone else does, let me know.
I think that, man, I got to go back and look now. I thought that we did a podcast with those guys. Maybe it was. Man, now I gotta go back and check. I don't know if it was on Sega Nerds or because I was starting to do this other website with Andrew on our site. It was called Club 3DO, and it was all about obviously 3DO stuff. And I think we did an interview with them on. Yeah, man, it looks like you maybe took down the website now. That stinks. But yeah, I think we did a podcast with him a long time ago in an interview. And so I have to try to, if I can find it, I'll ask him. And if we still have it somewhere, I'll send it to you. Just it may offer some information.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, one other one that I know about that is really interesting.
Cool.
That not a lot of people talk about is so Ute Saito was the designer of Seaman. I'm sure you played that back today on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
But they also did another viral marketing campaign leading up to that game's release, where they created a website that made it look like it was this like an adventurer that was going out, and he was like an explorer. Or he's something like he was out almost like a cryptozoologist, where he would try to find these unknown species of animal. And he heard about this fish with a face of a person that was found like off the coast of Egypt or something. And he'd write daily updates about his findings. And he traveled to Egypt, and he ended up finding one. He brought it back with him to, I think he was either based in, it was like New York or England or something like that. And he was doing all these like experiments on it. And they would post these photos of like this fish, but it was just bones, but it had like a small human skull on it. And it was all about, yeah, it was all about trying to virally promote Seaman coming in. But I was so fascinated with that because around that same time, like I was really interested in cryptozoology as well. Like I would read about Bigfoot, about Nessie, all this stuff. I still love it. And that just completely captured my imagination. And that was one of the things where like right up to the release of Seaman, I could not wait for that game to come out, because that website just completely like captured my imagination. And when I finally started playing Seaman, I was completely blown away. That game was amazing. But there's some interesting history in Seaman that not a lot of people talk about, just beyond the fact that it's a really crazy game. There's a lot of marketing aspects in it. That,
do you know if that's still available to see all that sort of stuff?
So the website's not available anymore. The only way to get to it is
Google Cache, or
the Wayback Machine. But I think, let me check too. I think I did another, because I was doing this series called like Crazy Sega Marketing or something like that.
Yeah. That sort of stuff really interests me. I love that sort of stuff.
On Sega Nerds, and it was that one. Let me see if I do have it. Okay, so I have a link. I'll put it in the chat real quick just so you can have it.
Yeah, man, do. That'd be cool.
And so yeah, it's neat because people talk about when people talk about Sega, a lot of as far as their marketing goes, a lot of it. Oh man, all the images are gone for some reason. Now it's like, oh, that stinks. But no, some of them there. But anyway, a lot of them talk about like the early days in the Genesis era when it was like, Sega does what Nintendo don't, and all that.
And that was another thing that didn't happen in the UK, really.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. I don't think it did. No.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, I mean, but Sega has even up until like, during the Dreamcast, there was also a lot of neat marketing that they were doing back then, and I don't think that they get enough credit during that era. That they do for back in the 16-bit days. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff there that people don't remember and don't really talk about these days. So for as far as like stuff out there for you to talk about and uncover, there's so much out there for you to do if you really want to kind of keep going along the lines that you are now, trying to go back into history that not a lot of people are talking about. There's just so much opportunity and potential out there.
Well, okay, so one of the ones I wasn't going to say, but I'll say it because I'm excited now. We're on this marketing thing. So have you ever heard of Johnny Turbo?
I want to say yes, but I don't know enough about it.
My God, right. I'm going to send you the link for this, and there'll be a video up on this, hopefully within one, at the most 2 weeks on my channel. So basically, Johnny Turbo was the last final attempt from NEC as a mascot to promote the console. The whole idea behind it was apparently Sega somewhere along the line said that they'd released the first they've released the first CD add-on for a console, and I can't find any kind of proof of that. Maybe someone said it in some interview somewhere, but there's definitely not anything I can find in any kind of flyer. But anyway, they're really up in arms about this, because the Turbo Duo 2 was the first ever. Well, according to them, that it came out before the Sega CD. That's the most important part. Now they created Johnny Turbo, which is a comic book that was inside a video game magazine like Computer Gamer Monthly, and you open it up, and it was just this really big, fat, big bearded guy, had like a G.I. Joe outfit on, a sideways cap, and basically he would have to try and stop the evil Faker, not Sega, Faker Incorporation, from selling all these games to the kids. And it's amazing, because they know, hey, you're going to go out and buy Sherlock Holmes? We've had it for years. It's stuff like really, really crappy, but it's just so funny, because they paint Sega in such a bad light, and I've got a clip coming up about that, and a few big YouTube named voices in it as well, which is gonna be cool.
Oh, that is amazing. I'm really looking forward to that, because that's the stuff I really, really love. I get into, like, a lot of the stuff we were talking about. Like, I can't get enough of learning like fun history about stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that video. That's awesome. I wonder if those magazines can be found online anywhere today.
I know. I'm sending over. There you go. You got them all. There's only 3 comics they made, but the really cool, funny thing about it is there's a cool twist at the end. Johnny Turbo exists, and the whole lot, it's believed that the whole thing was just to take the piss out of this one guy that they work with that looks like Johnny Turbo.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And, I found video footage of him and all that sort of stuff, which is I'm quite chuffed that I've managed to find, and all this sort of stuff. So I've sent that over to you. It's quite cool. But you got this evil man in a lair, and he works at Faker, and he's the guy putting up the master plan. And he sends out his minions to sell Faker units to the masses. It's really good.
Oh my god,
it's really
that is awesome. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, there's a lot of potential there, man. What's that?
Yeah, there's a video of that coming up. That'll be either my next one or the one after.
Oh, perfect, man. That's gonna be good. That's
absolutely
really awesome. Let's see here. Yeah, we've been rambling on about all this old school stuff.
But I'm always trying to find cool things like that, cool, interesting stories. So, for instance, I found out about this interesting Echo the Dolphin history of them, basically where the inspiration for Echo the Dolphin came from. That's what the video is about. And that's another one that probably come up probably within a month. I've got a lot more research to do on that. There's been
I do remember that now. Okay, I don't think I think someone else wrote that, but I do remember reading about that now. So yeah, that's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, so that one's coming up, and the cool thing about that is that one was actually sent to me from a guy over on Twitter. So I'm always I love chatting to people online. If anyone knows really cool stories, then obviously let me know, because if it's a relevant story like the ones you were saying, then it's the sort of thing I like to put out there. You know.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully no other YouTubers are watching or listening to this and then getting some ideas and try to hurry up and get some of that stuff, because
hey man, if someone does a good video on it, I'm happy.
Yeah. Just personally and selfishly, I would love for you to do some of those videos on some of that stuff, just because I would love it. So how much time and like what do you do like when you're doing research? Like, so for this Echo video that you plan on doing, like how much research do you do, and like how long does that take? Because I imagine like having to go back and just dig through websites, dig through web pages, and all this other stuff.
So that one was thrown up on a Vice website, and they're a reputable site, I think. And then as I looked around, a lot of people just linked to that. There was like proper big, I think like the Independent had talked about it, you guys had talked about it, but then I discovered that there was a BBC documentary on one part of the story, and when you watch that BBC documentary, it actually shines a whole new light. So basically, it was probably about not constantly, but about a week and a half, 2 weeks worth of constant research, research. Every chance I could, like, I found this bit out, and I found this bit out, and yeah. That's it, really. And then I just write the script, realize, that doesn't work now from the new bit of the research I found, so I've got to change that, and yeah, that's what it is. So yeah,
that's awesome. So one of the things about like it's really tough about people trying to create a YouTube channel now is really just to get noticed and to be able to build an audience. Yeah. Can you talk about some of the struggles that you've gone through with trying to build an audience, trying to get noticed, and some of the things that you could tell someone who's just getting started on what
it's hard. I mean, the advice I give probably isn't advice you want to hear, to the point where you shouldn't pester people, but I have done, and it's worked for me. Like, Twitter, I think, is the most for the first five. I'm near 10,000 subscribers, so I think for the first 10,000 subscribers, I think you really need to use Twitter and understand how Twitter works.
Yeah.
When you start looking into like becoming a source of information, being the place where people would go to discover really cool things, not just on your YouTube page, but on your Twitter as well. That's really good. Now, what's hard is when I tell people, you know, I've got a gaming YouTube channel, they think, oh, Let's Player, you know.
Right, yeah.
And I've got nothing against Let's Players, but if you're going to start in a Let's Play channel and expect to get big, you're going to have some pretty cool, unique twist on it, because there are 1,000,001 of those. Where I think I'm a bit more unique in what I do. Unfortunately, it's harder for me to break out of people thinking that I'm another, you know, Let's Play channel. So what I did is I tried to get in contact with as many people these people that inspired me. I've spoken to Lazy Game Reviews. I speak to Larry on a very mega basis. I speak to him all the time, and he's been a huge help in promoting my stuff, which is amazing. Get out there and talk to people. If you make content that you think is, I suppose, influenced by them, I suppose, because it's the way you start a band. I'm rambling so much, but it's the same way when you start a band, you take your influences from other people, and that's what you do with your YouTube channel. You take your influences. Speaking to these people, hopefully, 9 times out of 10, these people are really nice and they come back to you. And I don't think I've had a bad experience from any real big YouTubers. You know, I go out there, I talk to them. Most people come back to me and say they like my stuff, or, you know, they give me advice. And I've even had a few. So Rerez even helped me out making up a title card for one of my previous videos. There are some really nice YouTubers, and these people do it because they like doing it. Get out there. And I don't know where I'm going with this now, but.
He came by and he stopped by our booth. We had a booth at Too Many Games a few weeks ago.
Okay, cool.
Where we were promoting Megavisions.
Yeah, I'm back.
It was like a few days into Megavisions, and oh my god, man! I'll tell you what. If you ever decide to do a Kickstarter, don't do it. It's like such a stressful thing. Like I'm constantly glued to my phone and to the computer trying to work on that. But he stopped by and played. We had a Retro Freak there that had a bunch of games loaded onto it, and he stopped by. He seems like a really nice guy. I didn't really get a chance to talk to him.
Video, actually.
Oh, is that right? That'll be cool.
Yeah, hopefully. I think he may be giving the voice to one of my next videos.
He does some pretty cool different series as well. I like some of the stuff he does. I do subscribe to his channel.
Yeah, he takes it to a new level on the production side, and that was quite a big influence. People like him and the gaming historian took it to such a high production value. And although I'm not there, I don't think with the actual camera work and all that sort of stuff, it is still the sort of stuff that I inspire to. And there were things again that I was watching before I became before I had a YouTube channel. So,
yeah, definitely. I can only imagine like how much time it takes. And honestly, like I know I will never be able to do a YouTube channel just because I just don't have the time for it. Now, you know, I'm running SEGA Nerds, and now that I have Megavisions, I just know I won't be able to do it. So what I do now is I go out and find people who are as close to someone that I would want to be a friend with. Yeah. That you know, that I can relate to. And I watch their videos because it kind of scratches that itch that I would want to be able to get by making my own videos. So like Happy Console Gamer, like I love the passion that he has in video games and stuff. You know that, you know, when he does a video that it's stuff that he really believes and cares about, and I love that aspect about his stuff. So that's why I watch pretty much everything he does. I love the history and the length that you go to in your videos. I really appreciate that, and that's why I watch a ton of your videos as well. So I watch YouTube quite a bit. Like every morning I have a routine. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, take the dog out to go pee, come in, make a pot of coffee, and I sit down in front of my Xbox on the couch and just load up and watch whatever's new on my subscription list and do that for about 45 minutes. So I'll watch that stuff. But I do it all the time. And it's really awesome, man. Like I hope that you continue to do that. And I'm really interested in seeing like how your show continues to evolve and, you know, and how you do that, because I think you do have a unique angle at what you're doing that not a lot of people are doing, or at least doing to the point that you're doing, and I hope to.
Yeah, and that's my aim, really. Like I say, I want to try and make the best version of a Streets of Rage video, or the best version of a Golden Axe video. And although I look back at that and I'm like, oh man, that's too long for or the best version of any particular type of video that I can find. If I'm going to be doing a complete history, I want to make it so that is the one that people want to go to. That's what I'm trying to do. So.
Huh. All right. Well, before we go, there's a question that we used to always ask on every interview that we do, but we haven't done it in a long time, and I want to bring it back today. Okay, cool. And so we didn't say, I didn't tell you this before we began or anything like this. So it's basically, the shag, marry, kill question that people sometimes do.
Okay.
So we do that, but we apply it to Sega games. So what Sega game would you want to shag? So basically, that'd be kind of like your guilty pleasure game, right?
Okay.
Marry would be the game that if you could make a game for the rest of your life, what Sega game would that be? And then kill is what game would you just rather obliterate from existence because it's so bad or so shitty that you just rather not have ever been made?
Okay. Well, Marry is Sonic 3 and Knuckles, my all-time favorite game. Oh wow. I reckon a guilty pleasure is possibly Moonwalker, because really it's not that good of a game, but I was really into it. But in saying that, you look, I did a video on that. If you go to the Amstrad version, it's completely different. It's more like Grand Theft Auto, like the old ones with the top down and you're walking along through a maze.
That's right. I did watch that video. Yep, I saw.
Yeah. I prefer that one, but yeah, maybe Moonwalker for the Mega Drive, and a Void, a Sega game. Oh wow. See, I've been really lucky. All my games, I've always found good ones. I'm lost. I want to open my cupboard and look in there to see what I've got up on my Dreamcast shelf or something.
There's some bad Sega games out there. It doesn't have to be Genesis either.
No. It'd probably be an RPG. Phantasy Star. I know that's quite painful for everyone.
Oh man, yeah, that's.
I've just never been a fan of RPG. But you know what? I've never even given them a chance. The Phantasy Star games.
Right.
So I can't even say they're bad. But I don't see that I've got any interest in playing the Phantasy Star games.
Yeah, what's weird is that that's funny because I did love RPGs growing up as a kid. I got started with the Final Fantasy games on NES, and it kind of grew from there. I played Dragon Warrior. Exodus on the NES, and then I got my Genesis, so I started playing like games like Shining Force. And then one day my brother brought home Phantasy Star, and I played it, and I just wasn't really into it. It didn't capture me for whatever reason. I was never into it. I've gone back and played them since, and I do enjoy them. They're fine games, but when I was a kid, for whatever reason, I preferred Shining Force was my preferred RPG.
Yeah. Well, saying I don't like RPGs, a really good answer to the guilty pleasure one would actually be Dragon Crystal for the Master System. It's top down, almost like.
Did they release that on the 3DS?
No,
I thought it was like on one of their virtual console things.
I think they did it on. Yeah, it's Dragon Crystal. Yeah, for the Master System. That's one of the games I got in some.
Oh yeah, I have it right here on Game Gear.
Oh wow! Did they bring it on Game Gear as well?
Yeah.
Is it the same game?
I don't know. I haven't played it yet.
Oh, really?
I've been getting all these Game Gear games in anticipation of Cyber Gadget releasing the Game Gear converter for the Retro Freak. So everywhere I go, if there's Game Gear games, I just buy them up because they're usually really cheap. And looking forward to being able to finally play it on my Retro Freak. But they keep delaying it, and so it was supposed to come out at the end of July, and now it's not supposed to come out until August or something. So we'll see if it ever ships.
Yeah, just saw a picture of it. It's definitely the same game. It's definitely the same game. And I don't know why. It's just always stuck in my mind. I didn't get very far in that game at all. it looks totally like a typical like top-down Zelda-esque game, or
right,
or Golden Axe Warrior if we want to keep it Sega. Yeah, I don't know why it stuck with me, but it did.
That's hilarious. Awesome. Well, where can people see more of you? Like, where can people find you on social media and your videos?
Yeah, so I've got Slopes Game Room on Facebook. I've got Slopes Game Room on Twitter, which I'm a lot more active than I am on Facebook. I'm trying to sort that out. And obviously on my YouTube channel by searching for Slopes Game Room.
Nice.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely.
All right.
I try and get a video up once a week, but at the moment I'm actually getting 2 up a week, which is doing my head in. So I've got to take a break.
Cow. That's crazy. I can only imagine. But we definitely have to get back on again. Maybe after a couple of these videos that we discussed have went published,
absolutely.
we can get you back on and we can kind of talk about some of that stuff, because I'd be really interested in learning some of the background and the research that you've done and you will do in some of these videos. So we'll have to bring you back on and talk about it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy for you to give me more ideas for like good videos.
I have some more in my head that I have not talked to you about, but I'll wait until next time and we can talk about it then.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm definitely up for checking this. I've looked through Sega Nerds and many other Sega related sites and just tried to find that cool, interesting story. But I can't believe I've missed this Seaman one, because I'm really interested in this now.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of it looks like some of the images we're hosting on one of our sister sites that we had, and that site's not around anymore. It looks like we lost some of them, but I think I ended up getting a lot of them on Google Images and the Wayback Machine. Like if you go on the Wayback Machine and go to the website that's listed in that article, you'll be able to find some of those images still. Hopefully, you'll be able to still find some. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm excited, man. I'm going to check that out.
Awesome. All right, that's going to do it for us. We will be back again next week. We'll see you guys later. And thanks again, Dan, for coming on the show.
All right. Cheers, Chris.
All right.
Cheers, guys.